they got squiffy gods that'll turn them into quibbly monsters if they're not. So, we're gonna have a good scrap!
The mortal world is destined to be consumed by chaos. It is the will of the dark gods, and the servants of the ruinous powers are now numberless. Amongst them stand the tainted chaos dwarfs, who abandoned their old and noble ways to embrace the darkness. If they chose this path for their own mere survival, or for their own ambition, no one can surely tell, but they are about to be challenged and well tested by a brutal enemy. The air ran hot and dry in that battlefield. If it was dawn or dusk, no one could tell. The skies changed entirely in matters of minutes, and no one could almost tell that the clouds formed twisted shapes and faces for fleeting moments. The dry bones of giant unknown creatures littered the plains. A host of chaos dwarfs stood defiant against an approaching enemy. The war drums could be heard in the distance, and it was reported that their numbers were great, higher than the dwarfs expected. Those lands were not meant to host such a large number of beasts, yet there they were, praying towards them, their own failed experiment, the Black Orcs of the Skull Cracker tribe. There is a story describing that, long ago, the Chaos Kindred of the Dwarfs needed a steady source of reliable troops to bolster their own ranks and consolidate their territories and grim forges. The greenskins that they had as slaves at the time deemed less than adequate. So, using their dark sorcery and carefully applied breeding program, they set about creating a new strain of orc. They sought to make them stronger, hardier, and more intelligent, so that they could better carry out the will of the Chaos Dwarfs. They succeeded initially, but their experiment went far beyond their expectations and desires. The orcs presumably rebelled against their so-called masters and butchered them to the point of almost total annihilation. Then they escaped from a life of slavery to a life of incessant warfare, violence, and survival. From then on, the Chaos Dwarfs and the Black Orcs have made their own paths in the world, oftentimes tainted with much blood, iron, and in the case of the Chaos Dwarfs, sorcery. Counting as the rarest amongst their warlike kind, the Black Orcs are oftentimes found as hard-fighting elite units or as the leaders of entire greenskin tribes. This time, however, an entire army of Black Orcs, armed to the teeth, was charging forwards against the Chaos Dwarfs. Conflict was inevitable, and a hard battle was about to take place. Ramarak, the Chaos Dwarf's lord, had assembled his host of iron, as he would proudly call it. A skilled warrior and sorcerer alike, truly a destructive instrument of the dark gods. Mounted atop his manticore, he gave orders to his heavily armored warriors to take defensive positions. Hell cannons, centaurs, and other unnameable monstrosities were also part of his force. The massive horde of greenskins, mostly comprised of hulking black orcs, advanced tirelessly towards the defiant Chaos Dwarfs with a single driving motive: to annihilate the twisted beings that had no place in those lands, and to break the chains of the thousands of other greenskins that had remained captured in their hellish enslavement, their huge weapons already screaming for blood. The terrible war boss, Gorn Rock Smasher, led the charge atop his mighty wyvern. Like a massive tide of iron, they approached the enemy, eager to avenge the taking of so many of their kin over the last months. Not a single greenskin would once again be taken prisoner into the hellish forges and pits of the twisted dwarfs. Vengeance was due.
First though, we need to break them big guns. That's just cheating. I want some boys on that straight away. Stop their artillery from shooting, and we get more time scrapping. Justice more nonsense.
The Chaos Forces brought forth their massive hell cannons, a fusion of demonic spirits and hell-forged machinery. The energies released by those cannons tore reality apart as they arced towards their advancing orcs. The blasts constantly slamming into their ranks, scattering warriors and leaving a trail of dead in their wake. No armor, shield, or physical toughness was protection against a blast from these otherworldly weapons. Regardless of the losses, the Black Orcs kept advancing, despite witnessing the colossal monsters and wicked creations that bolstered the Chaos Dwarfs' army. They kept running. For the Black Orcs, they were no more than bigger targets, and for them, that was even better a reason to fight. The prospect of bringing down the biggest and mightiest of foes only reinvigorated the Greenskins' tremendous thirst for battle. The close combat fighting began not when the main lines clashed, but when 3 units of Centaurs circled and charged directly into the flanks of the massive greenskin horde. The Centaurs chanted as they hacked and slashed at the enemy, who only responded in kind, devoting a fraction of their forces to contain the unseen attack, while the main line kept advancing towards the Chaos Dwarfs. With a gesture, Ramarak gave the order to advance. The fell regiment of the ironclad warriors rampaged forwards, knowing this was their time to release their violent fury and unleash the will of the dark gods upon their enemies. The Chaos Dwarfs were as eager to punish the Black Orcs as the beasts were. The earth shook as hundreds of armored warriors charged forward to meet the coming wave of iron and fury. Despite the ever-growing mayhem being unleashed by the second all around them, the Black Orcs kept advancing without a second of doubt. Their instincts indicating only one thing: to kill the armored dwarfs in front of them. They were tougher than any of those dwarfs, and they were going to prove it in battle. The stubborn Chaos Dwarfs met the charging green monstrosities, able to match their ferocity and return it in kind. With both parties heavily armored, the sounds of shields, axes and cleavers clashing filled the battlefield. Hulking orcs battled heavily armored dwarfs in duels of earth-shattering strength, both sides dealing devastating blows that would split a normal man in half. Ramarak, atop his manticore, engaged in a hard-fought duel with the orc warboss, Gorn Rock Smasher, mounted on his own massive wyvern. The beasts clawed and slashed at each other while their riders fought and dealt heavy damage. The Chaos Dwarfs, tainted by the dark powers as they were, manifested devastating tornadoes of fire that devoured everything in their path. In a matter of seconds, the air around the Orcs turned into living flames and swallowed them entirely, melting armor and flesh alike. The Orcs screamed as they burned under the flames, but fought on nonetheless, not stopping in their relentless attacks. Many Orcs fell, dead and consumed by the fire, not able to fight anymore, but many more kept fighting with hot, living flames dancing on top of them. No force was willing to give a step back, and the fighting grew in intensity and scale with each passing second. The unrelenting sounds of combat and war chants could be heard around the battlefield. No quarter was given. The Chaos Dwarfs' line barely held tight. Hundreds of warriors lay dead, but many still remained and stood fighting the now unbearable green tide. The tainted dwarfs executed their duty, fighting on until the enemy was annihilated or they themselves were slain. More and more orcs kept coming at the dwarfs. The orcs had in numbers what the dwarves hadn't: possessed artillery and rare monstrosities. It was a brutal battle, one that dragged on for long hours. The Centaurs that had been dealing with a portion of the Greenskins' force finally broke the resistance. Bloodied but without a second of rest, they charged over the hills and into the rear guard of the main battle line. Groups of Centaurs clashed against the backs of the Orcs as soon as they reached the line. In a matter of seconds, the Orcs realized they were being surrounded, and the Dwarfs, despite being heavily damaged, showed no signs of breaking the line. The Black Orcs of Skullcracker tribe kept fighting regardless. They would not break, and they would emerge triumphant or die fighting. The battle lasted for many hours now, and the fighting was done atop the bodies of the fallen warriors from both sides. The pressure began to weight on the Orcs, however, as the havoc unleashed by the Centaurs proved to be too much to contain. As the battle ended, the skies above seemed to laugh. It is said that hundreds and hundreds of orcs were taken as prisoners that day, and many more on the days following, as hunting parties were sent across the unforgiving and lifeless plains. The hidden dark dungeons of the Chaos Dwarfs were filled once again with greenskins. The columns of wounded and unarmed orcs were led to unknown places beneath the mountains. They were never to be seen again.
Hello my friends, it's Joyar here. Thank you for watching up until this point. Hope you enjoyed this latest cinematic battle. It was suggested by a patron not too long ago over on Discord, and he was right. I mean, when I read that, I thought, yeah, we hadn't done a cinematic battle in a while, so why not give it a try? And this this was super fun to make, and at the same time we saw some black orcs and some chaos dwarfs in action. That's always super fun. And please know that when Warhammer 3 comes out, we will be making a lot of content around the chaos dwarfs when they drop, of course, with the full official roster all published and ready to play. And yeah, we will be making a lot of videos around their lore, how they came to be, their lords, the places, I mean, where they operate, where they're based on, everything. I mean, and doing a comeback to cinematic battles is always fun. I mean, I haven't had this fun in a while while editing a video. So the fun part about making cinematic battles is that are not based exactly around the lore, is that they give you some kind of creative, like a creative window or a creative opportunity to explore and to come up with whatever outcome it may be. So I think that you as a viewer, it's also fun because you don't know who's going to win. Like you have to watch the entire thing to know what's going to happen. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you, my friends. Also, special thanks to Adam for his amazing narration throughout the entire video. He made an amazing job throughout the entire thing. I think we have worked together in the last 5 or 4 episodes now. We just did the Everqueen Part 1, Part 2, now Rakarth, and now this one, this cinematic battle between the Black Orcs and the Chaos Dwarfs. So yeah, I hope you are enjoying his voice. He's a very cool guy and a pleasure to work with, and we'll be hearing more of him soon. If you're wondering where Scrobosaurus has been, please know that you will be hearing here very soon. He's been working on a couple of more videos for the channel. One of them is Clan Pestilence. The last major clan we're missing. We already did Eshin, Molder, and lately Scryer, and he's been working on Clan Pestilence now, and let me tell you guys, it's going to be amazing. At the end of when all 4 of those are published, we're going to be releasing one big episode containing the 4 Skaven major clans for you to enjoy in a single sit down if you wish. At the same time, Scrobosaurus and I were working on I wouldn't say our first dip into Warhammer 40k, because we already did that with the Orcs episode, which was also narrated by Scrobosaurus, and he did such an amazing job. Apart from narrating the lore, impersonating characters and doing quotes, he did such an amazing job. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will put the link in the card right here so you can watch it right now. It's an amazing, I think it's one of the best videos on the channel. He did a great job with the voice acting, and I also enjoyed editing it. It was awesome. So yeah, we are working right now on the Space Marine Scouts episode. We'll see how that turns out. I think it will be great, hopefully, and I'm looking forward to getting your feedback, guys, so we can take it from there and see what things can be improved and get rid of the things that didn't work, right? That's the thing with this in YouTube and the channel as a whole. You have to keep trying different things, and we'll see what works, and hopefully we'll have fun along the way. There's one more thing I wanted to ask you about this. If you notice, the last 2 episodes, Rakarth and this cinematic battles, didn't have subtitles, or at least they didn't have subtitles throughout the entire thing. This cinematic battle in particular just had the black bars at the top and at the bottom of the video, of the frame, but didn't have the subtitles that we are used to. So in that regard, here's what happens. I think that they add this immersion element, seeing those little captions pop up right when a character speaks or when the narrator is speaking. But at the same time, man, it's one of the most tedious aspects of doing these videos. They take hours to do, right? Because you have to do the timing in each, like I said, each time the narrator speaks. So if you know of a technique or a plugin that can make this work easier, let me know in the comments. But at the same time, I wanted to ask you, do you miss these subtitles? Like, do they add a lot? Because one thing is that they add, if they add this cinematic element to it, and yeah, that's all right, we can live without it, maybe. I want to hear your feedback about it, that's why I'm asking. But at the same time, I am aware that there are some people that prefer to have captions available to them, because they are sometimes watching on the train and you can turn the entire volume up, so you are just watching the video and reading what's happening basically. So let me know if you are using this, and for me it will be awesome to keep on doing them. But at the same time, if you guys are like meh, yeah, I'll be okay too, so I can pop up videos a little bit faster, because yeah, like I said, it's one of the most tedious parts of the whole process. Also guys, I just want to say thank you to Yuri, an amazing artist who helped me make this background we are seeing right now, this Imperial house. We are supposed to be inside of an Imperial house in Altdorf in a rainy night. So this background is just made for particular sections such as this, in which I talk to you a little bit more about the behind the scenes, what's going on the channel right now. I want to do this more often, so you guys can get to know the process a little bit better. And yeah, this is part of that step, right? That kind of animated background. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
On this channel, we are putting together narrative Total War cinematic battles and Warhammer lore videos. A special thank you goes to our Patreon supporters who help us in the making of more content. You can also join Patreon and earn extra perks while supporting the videos to come. Find the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, and thank you for watching. See you on the next one.